course, as soon as I hit the button, I'm going to start to cough. Seems to be irresistible.
Guess I need to turn my
Your sound. Yeah, I can hear my voice over there. It's very strange. Hey, we got one person. Give them a couple of minutes. Hey, one person gave us one like. Wherever you are, hello. Hey, a few more people showed up. All right, we'll get rolling before you know it. That's one of the things that's fun about these days. Ian says, welcome. Please feel free to ask questions on magical subjects. Aaron Jones says, hello. Hi, Aaron. How you doing? Emerald Dawn says, hello. How are you both? Well, we've been through a bit of a shock and awe kind of a week as far as things in our household are concerned, but we've managed, so we're doing okay. It's like details we're not allowed to talk about, but yeah, I found some interesting things out about myself during this week. When the entire world shifts under my feet, I get very, very quiet inside. I had a whole night of this dead silence inside of me as I was trying to adjust to what had happened. So yeah, it was very interesting, and things are already on the road to getting back to normal. So it was definitely a Saturn event.
No big deal, just family issues, which everybody has, of course.
Uncovered something.
Yep.
Lewell says hello. Hi, Lewell. We're actually having a nice day out today. It's sunny and mostly warm for our area, so we didn't have to turn on any heat or anything, and it's a little bit breezy out there, which is good because it's warm. We're not used to the warm, so. But what do you guys all like to talk about today? I'm working on the poppets. I should be doing that in the next couple of days and gathering more ingredients and so forth, and trying to find the ones I thought I already had that disappeared. You know how that goes.
I gotta look stuff up.
Gonna go look stuff up. Okay.
No, not right now. It's just
No.
Look happens to be just right here, so I can just grab the book.
All right. That's one of those giant books you have.
Yep.
3 books in one, right?
Yep.
Is that Agrippa or?
Yep.
He's a big book.
Yep.
Nah.
Okay.
I'm sure they've seen him. Well, let's get going. We want to talk about something different.
No.
Definitely been busy.
Why don't you pick something
And just
start
talk about
talking
it?
about it, and then we'll take questions as they come up.
I guess. Balloonhead says, hi, I'm so excited to make it to one of these. Well, welcome. And we're always happy to have new people make our live show. You get to ask anything that's on your mind. Berenya says, hi, how to protect ourselves from negative entities or energies. Okay, we have a series of videos that you can watch on psychic self-defense. But in general, being in charge of your own space and being in charge of your own self and your energy. Negative energies tend not to like positive energies. So the more you are who you want to be, the less you'll have to deal with that kind of stuff. It's not like in Christianity where if you're positive, negative things come to try and turn you and make you bad. It's kind of more natural in that like attracts like. So, but there are certainly some stones that you can use to help you with that, like black tourmaline, jet, spinel, black spinel, that kind of thing that gives you an assist, especially while you're learning and growing. And then selenite is a good one to have around because it generates so much light energy itself. So it kind of fills the space up with with this wonderful energetic light. I sort of think of selenite like solidified light force. It's very amazing stuff. Lulu says, what do you think of the aura photos? How accurate are they? We did a little investigation into the aura cameras and discovered you can pick whatever aura you want to have show up on the photograph, so not that accurate.
Yeah, this was about 15 or 20 years ago. We looked into the whole subject, but yeah, I found nothing that convinced me there was any validity whatsoever to the ones you get at the psychic fairs and things. Now, there may be, I thought, more validity to the original ones they did, that the original experimenter did.
The Kirlian photography.
Kirlian, yes. But without the high voltage plates and stuff like that, I don't see how they're relevant at all. But then that was 20 years ago, so things could have changed since then. Maybe they've come up with something that works better or whatever. But I've never run across an authentic one that I thought was authentic myself.
Me neither. So that's our experience with it. Violet says, hello. Hi, Violet. Joy says, hello, taking a break from window washing. Oh, good. Balloonhead says, I don't know if you've talked about this before, but how do you develop a personal language with the universe? It's a very complex and simple process at the same time. What you do, how you act, what you say, if you follow through with what you say you're going to do, all of those things come into play with developing a language with the universe. And the universe is symbolic in a lot of ways, and it caters to your specific symbolism. So you can.
Well, you have to have a certain amount of sensitivity too to realize when the universe is trying to converse back at you also.
A lot of times the universe is always trying to have a dialogue with us, but most of the time we're not paying attention. So if you start having dreams about someone hitting you in the head with a brick, it's probably the universe trying to get your attention, kind of thing.
Could be.
But it is. Since it's an intuitive thing, then developing your intuition and knowing yourself, so you can tell the difference between your own projections about people and the universe and the world and so forth, and the actual reality of what's there coming towards you. It's one of the reasons why it's a lifelong thing. It's always being refined and evolved. So Phoenix Claw says, hails and hello to all. Hi, Phoenix. Alan says, sorry for late arrival. Had a client trying to be difficult with receptionist after his wife already paid for the care of the damn dog. I'm so sorry. Ruth says, hi all. Hi, Ruth. Lewis says, do you think universe is fundamentally mathematical? Well, I think that there's a lot of things in the universe that follow a mathematical model, but I don't think you don't need to use math in order to communicate with and understand the universe.
If you think of what mathematics actually is, I would say no myself, in the sense of what we normally consider mathematics, because our normal mathematics are only a set of human-created symbols we use to manipulate concepts and things. I might say you can use mathematics to represent the universe and that it follows mathematical laws, such, but mathematics itself is an artificial creation, a way for us to juggle things around and make sense of them.
Yeah, we're always changing. I mean, mathematics changes as our concept and understanding of the universe changes as well. So Varenya says, how to raise Kundalini, especially raise it more after it reaches higher chakras like the heart chakra. So raising the Kundalini is something you need to be careful with, because if you raise it too fast, and you can blow out your energy field for a period of time and then have to recover from that. It can be a little bit overwhelming. One of the reasons why I put together the Tree of Life meditation that we have is a way of gently opening up the chakras and allowing them to blossom as they're ready to. Because anything that you do to try and force an opening is, generally speaking, going to be premature. which means that your energy body is not ready to receive the high level of energetic information that may go through it. It can cause health problems, psychological issues, and so
Don't
forth.
force it, I guess. If there was one thing I'd say, it would be don't force it. You can encourage it, but don't force it.
And that's the thing. I was with someone before Ian and I got together who was into forcing my Kundalini to rise. It's a good thing it's been rising my entire life, and so I was actually more prepared for it in that sense. But, I mean, an intense rising of your Kundalini can cause what other people see as seizures, and it's very confusing to a lot of people when it comes to what the heck is going on. And so Moira was good at describing it. She described reincarnation memories and Kundalini kind of in a similar way. It's like you're born with a flower bud that's there, and it's slowly evolving and developing. And when it's ready to open on its own, it blossoms and open up, and then everything works the way it's supposed to.
No, why?
But if you sort of try to force the blossom open when it's not ready, you can damage the root, the plant, yourself, as an analogy. So I would be careful with that.
So never mind. Go ahead.
Okay, Balloonhead says that makes sense. Thank you all. I'm really hard-headed.
Me too.
Verenia says, what is your opinion on sacred geometry? It's fun to play with.
Well, that would be like in the churches and things that they used, and
It's
and setting up,
beautiful. Yeah, architecture and so
I
forth.
really don't know much about it myself. I've never really followed up on because I'm horribly bad at math to start with.
And so am I. I like geometry, but I don't like calculations. But there's certainly evidence that Masons and other magical groups used angles and things like that to send specific messages to each other. So, as a secret language, it can work pretty well. Jonathan says, hello, everyone. Hi, Jonathan. Laud says, hi, Siofra and Ian. Glad to be here with you. Well, glad that you've joined us. Phoenix says, numerology of the universe equals Mahat magic. And Phoenix says, the god Maat. Jonathan says,
And
I'm not sure what.
I don't
A cauldron
know either,
with steam in it?
Well,
Cup of
whatever
coffee?
it is, it held the comment.
Apparently,
So I had to specifically show it.
well, so maybe Jonathan can tell us what that
Yes, because I
symbol is.
don't recognize it. I'm not locating it yet.
But anyway, yeah. There are a lot of different ways to interact with the universe. So whatever works for you will probably work with the universe, since, it's not committed to one way or another. There's no one single method for communication with the universe.
Give an offering to the universe for something, or help something out and do something like that and dedicate it just to the universe in general, and
Without expecting something in return.
Right, and you might be surprised. You might find something happen that really surprises you.
So, the crows have started leaving me shells. So these are the shells that they're leaving me. I'm beginning a collection of shells, and I thought that was pretty entertaining. That they're leaving me this scallop shell, I think. I've got two of them
So it's
here.
a curling stone. All right, right. Oh, I get it now.
Oh,
Thank you, Jonathan. Good.
okay.
Yeah. Curling stone, right.
Well, Ian's metaphor for working with Kundalini.
I should have known that's what it was.
Brushing it to give it the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Creating less resistance as you go, so it goes where you want it to.
Yep.
It's a good analogy. I like it. So Verenia says, have you ever had experience with water elementals or mermaids or sirens? I have had experiences with undines. They taught me how to swim when I was a kid, and I continue to interact with them now. And I saw them as mermaids, but they were definitely the water beings, water elementals. So yeah, I mean, they helped me float. Balloonhead says beautiful, and Joyce C says, I thought it was a bowl of chili. Yeah, I thought maybe
Kind of
too.
looks like that. Yeah. Except I can see now that's a little handle. Now.
That's a little handle.
Yeah.
And Phoenix says, joke, Kundalini, not tortellini. Haha. Yes.
I like tortellini.
Tortellinis are nice.
Anyway,
So you could have tortellinis and not kundalini. I don't know. They're just words, right?
charge up your tortellini to raise your kundalini. Whatever.
Well, we could have fun with that. Yeah. Um, yeah, I've had a lot of experience with different elementals and beings and the Fae and land guardians and things like that and elementals. We didn't have really an encounter so much with the self as we just had we ran into a self. Apparently it was comfortable enough to stick around for us to feel it, so I thought that was kind of
They don't
interesting.
usually like hang around the ground, just near the ground like that, just in one spot. So I don't know what was up with that.
It was waiting for me to come back and confirm it was there. I don't know. Maybe it was doing something to help the tree it was by.
Beats me. I couldn't tell well enough. I could just tell there was something there.
Yeah, silts are interesting because they're very ephemeral. They're so non-solid.
Yep.
I'm not sure exactly how to describe
Well,
that.
and they're like in motion, like air. Well, they have the properties of air, basically. So they're
Yeah.
kind of like moving and changing and shifting and light and flexible and basically all those air properties.
Yep. Wispy.
Yep.
Can't really hold on to them much. Verena says, how to connect contact with undines. Any suggestions? Get in the water? A lot. Think about the water, work with the water.
Yeah, generally connection with the water element. Barton talks about it a little bit at one point. You learn to leave your body in mental travel, and then you go down into the elemental kingdom of water by taking your mental body that you're now outside your physical body in, and then you sink it down into the element, completely down until you meet the undines and things under there. But that implies that you have a certain amount of ability and a certain amount of clairvoyance also to become aware of them.
You can also use the Indian tatwas to help create an entrance into the element itself.
That works really well.
And that does work quite well. We did a video on the tatwas. It's one of our earlier ones, but they're from India, and they're sort of a color shape kind of a thing that represents the element in the doorway to it. And you do gazing at it until it starts to flash. And then you look at a blank piece of paper and you see the opposite image. And then you can use that image to enter into the elemental kingdom to
Yeah,
connect
as a doorway to travel through with your mental body.
But both sources, or all sources that I know of, tell you that if you're going to do that and enter into the kingdom of an element, it is considered extremely bad manners to go up to one of the undines and say, hey, here I am, I'm here, let's have a talk. You can be there in their kingdom, you can experience what's going on, but unless they decide they want to approach you, you're not going to have a conversation with them. So that's the beginning step, is learning how to get there, how to be there and stay there, and experience and see what they are. And then when they decide that it's the right time, then they'll come and approach you. I don't know why they decided to teach me how to swim. I wasn't doing magic that I knew of at the time. I was young, 10 years old maybe a little bit less. We were living on base, and I went to the swimming classes, and they taught me how to do the doggy paddle, which has got to be the most inefficient form of swimming ever created. I don't know who came up with that. That's just moronic. And you couldn't go by yourself until you could get across the pool with the doggy paddle. I managed to succeed at that, but I was not swimming. I didn't feel like I belonged in the water. I was fighting to stay in it the whole time. So once I was able to go to the pool by myself, that was when I connected with the undines in the water, and they're the ones who showed me how to swim. They explained to me how it worked. They gave me pictures in my head. They told me to pretend to be like a dolphin or a mermaid, and had me do a lot of underwater kind of swimming, and that connected me with the water element. And at this point, I float. in my own bathtub. I'm extremely buoyant. I have like I can feel the viscosity of the water molecules together, and they sort of create a buoyancy that I can connect with, and it's pretty interesting. So that was that. Talon says, I live near on the water's edge on the Arkansas River. I'm constantly foraging for spell components and always pick up trash while I'm at it. That's a good thing to do. Jonathan says, how similar are created elementals to natural elementals? I think my next big magic is going to be servitors, maybe making a servitor to operate as a familiar.
Well, mainly, I think one of the differences, the natural elementals have experience in things outside you, so you can find out lots of good information from the pre-existing natural ones and do various things. Whereas if you make your own, it's only ever going to be able to do what you can put into it and how much oomph you have to make it and to make it do what you want. And you'll have to put any aspect of the personality that it's going to have or anything like that, you have to put in specifically. Like if you were making a protector, you might want to put it with loyalty to you or something like that, and personality things. So yeah, basically the already existing ones are more like dealing with another being, whereas your own elementals are more like a computer program you wrote or something, kind of, where they do only what they're programmed to do, more or less, mostly.
So, yeah. Talon says, I heard an undine splashing around recently late at night. Cool. Balloonhead says, is there a book or something to help identify the random lights things I see, like little white balls in the sky and sudden colorful flashes?
That would be nice.
And I don't think there is one. I see those things, and I have seen them since I was little, and I don't know exactly what they all mean, even though I see them all the time. I know they're an energetic substance. I think that life force energy is kind of like, the flashing balls and stuff. So staying open, paying attention, seeing if you can make correlations, see if something happens at the same time that you see them, or just recognize that this is just another part of nature that not everyone can see. It's just like other animals see things differently than we do. Some see in color, some see not in color, some see in ultraviolet ranges, and the world looks completely different to them. So I think that some of us just have a more natural ability to see in different spectrums than the average person, and that's one of the reasons why there's not that much cohesive information about exactly what it is, because it's not something that a scientist can get their teeth into and measure and come up with a theory and so forth and test it to tell us that this is part of the natural world, even though we know it is part of the natural world. It's different. I suspect at this point that it's something to do with dark matter. I'm really leaning in that direction. Who knows if I'm right or not, but it's kind of interesting. I'm going to be really curious. The Hadron Collider in the CERN Collider is going on a 4-year experiment, and they're going to be looking for interactions with dark matter to see if they can have some kind of a connection with it and get some more ideas about it. And I'm finding that whole idea is quite fascinating. So I'm curious to see what they get out of that. So Kenny says, hail there, Siofra and Ian. Hi, Kenny. Phoenix Claus says, when you're down, discouraged, or depressed, what do you do, Siofra? Well, apparently I get really super quiet. One of the things that I do. And I look at I try to see whatever it is that's happening clearly instead of through my own personal lens, and accept the facts, whatever they might be, if there are facts. And then I try to come up. I'm a solution oriented personality, and so then I look for what can be done to shift or change this. So no matter what it is, that's what I would do. So if I'm sometimes when I'm down, it's just I should be able to be down because I need to take a break, and if I'm not paying attention, I could be in trouble. So I have to evaluate whether it's like a natural cycle, like the tides, you know, the ocean and the moon and the seasons and all the other stuff, or not. But then I find something I'm passionate about, something I'm interested in. That's why I do art. And sometimes I'll watch TV to get myself out of my head. I used to do a lot of I put up a video called the Cup Transformation Spell. And if I had feelings that are very overwhelming, I used that a lot, where I would take the feeling and put it outside of my body into the cup. And then I would transform it into something I needed or something I wanted. And so I would change the energy, but not like try and ignore it or banish it or bury it or whatever. So that was one I used quite a bit. And today I was talking to somebody on one of the pagan groups about how to deal with anger. And that was one thing I used to do with anger. I would take a black stone and put it on my forehead. And since I lived out in the middle of nowhere, no one could hear me screaming. So that was helpful. I didn't have anyone calling the cops on me. And I would scream my rage into the stone and then throw it in the river and let the water take it and transform it and give it back to the earth. So if it's like a toxic kind of feeling or emotion or whatever I'm having, I can externalize it and let it go, because in the end I'm in charge of how I feel and how I respond to whatever it is that life throws at me. It's my responsibility to figure it out. And if I had to, I would seek help. I would go seek professional help if it was something that was just too far outside of my normal methods to work. So hopefully that helps. Shay says, hello, dear ones. Good to see you, hear you,
Hi,
read
Shay.
you. Hi, Shay. Nice to join us on your break. Verenia says, wow, that's so amazing that you have been taught swimming by undines, the elements themselves. How many people can say that? It sounds like a fantasy movie. So cool. Well, yeah, it is sort of like that, but it was real for me. Jonathan says, thanks, Ian. Luna says, hi, Siofra and Ian. Not stopping, just wanted to say hello. Hello.
Hi, Luna.
Jonathan says, hi, Shay. Luna says, hi, Jono. Verenia says, what's your opinion on reality shifting? Well, I think it might have happened to me a couple of times, but I'm not completely sure, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. Yeah.
The idea that you can shift from one into an alternate reality and be in a different stream suddenly. And I don't know. I mean, if it is happening, it's probably something we're not going to notice.
Well, that's something I have no opinion on myself. It seems plausible, but sort of, I don't know. Sorry. Some things we just don't know about.
So Jonathan said, hi, Luna. Joy says, how do you charge a wand? Is it like sending Reiki? I don't seem to have any personal oomph. I'm always tired and spacey. I cannot seem to concentrate anymore. Well, in the construction of the wand, that can help you focus the energies that you want to have the wand absorb. And I think I've got 3 videos on wands or more at this point. One on how to use a wand, how to make the wand.
Well, one thing that you don't have to use all your own energy to charge the wand, depending on what kind of wand you make. If you're using willpower, making it a willpower wand, you have to use your willpower to charge it. But if it's something else like a light wand or a planetary wand or something like that, you use that power and you use it to fill the wand so that you don't get drained using all your own energy.
So you can like connect the wand that you're building to a power source outside of yourself, so that you're not the one who has to charge it all the time. You just have to like be there to connect the 2 streams together. And the way you construct it, what you make it out of, what you put on it, what your personal associations are of the things that you might use for it, those are the things that will charge up the wand. And then you can use it and not feel tired and exhausted and spacey. Balloon Head said, ooh, that cup thing sounds really cool. Yeah, it was very useful. Jay says, Phoenix Claw, spending time in nature, gardening, these help ground us and shift our energy. Yes, very absolutely. True. Lod says, I recently found a toy hobby horse unicorn head half buried in my garden and wondered about the symbolism of this. I'd be interested in your thoughts on it. Well, what a cool find.
You know, things like that are so individual usually. The stuff you usually come up with are stuff that the universe intends for you, and they don't necessarily mean the same thing for multiple people.
Well,
Probably
heck, if
something
I
different
found
for
a
everybody.
unicorn head buried in my garden, I'd be getting it out of the dirt, painting it up, and giving it like a place to be, and have it become the guardian of my garden. That's what I would do. You can do whatever you want. But certainly
cool.
doesn't seem
Yeah.
negative in any sense whatsoever. Talon says, I finally get to start my new project tomorrow, going to create a walk-in terrarium for tropical house plants. Cool.
Oh, nice. Sounds like a lot of work, but nice.
But hey, Verena says, have you ever tried or know of any soul retrieval techniques? Well, I've heard about the idea of soul retrieval, and really that's sort of part of shadow work, the idea of working through your stuff and taking back parts of you that were left in a traumatic situation, and that you disconnected from and that kind of thing. So, but not specifically. I have it happen every so often. I went through a period where it seemed like bits of me were coming back from different places.
If you're clearing yourself out gradually and working on that, then it eventually will. We know of one person who apparently can do it, but she doesn't live around here, and I've never had any experience of her doing it. So.
Oh, right. You're talking. I know who you're talking about. Yeah. So Balloonhead says, Talon, that sounds amazing. Jonathan says, we already shifted reality. That's how we ended up on the most stupid, ridiculous timeline.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. Phoenix says, would you explain more, Jonathan? Well, if we actually did shift and are on a stupid timeline, maybe we can shift back. So let's work on that. Joy said, thank you. An apple wood wand for healing and just creating a circle to meditate in so I can connect it to the earth or Gaia. Yeah, absolutely. Or to all apple trees across the planet. A goddess of apples, if you know of one. Yeah, there's just yeah.
Yeah, you can
sit underneath the apple tree where if you still know where the apple tree is, if it's in your yard or something like that, or.
One thing that's really good for healing is the light energy. So, you could also consider filling it with white light and compress that down in there, and that's a good healing energy source to use. Like life force, put it in there like life force. It's bright like light, it's life force. Fill it with life force, and I think an applewood wand would work great for that.
Well, apple is often associated with love, beauty, and health.
And if you want, you can charge it up to, depending on what kind of healing, but you can charge it up so that it will impregnate people with the light energy and fill them up in their wherever they need healed or whatever, depending on exactly how you're going to use it. But light energy works great. White, basically white.
Selenite. So Lod says, it's a soft toy unicorn head, bright pink. I've washed it a few times and I'm going to repair it and keep it in a special place. Awesome.
Cute.
Joyce says, the apple tree is in the neighbor's yard and the only few branches still alive are in my yard, so I asked it for a branch. Cool. And when you ask a tree for a branch, a lot of times the spirit of the tree will come with it, especially if you specifically ask for that as well. Kenny says, I've been seeing angel numbers so often ever since last year. I believe I have 3 guardian angels. I did tarot cards to connect with them recently, and they want to help me with abundance. Okay, I want to know. Jacqueline says, hi, Siofra. Hi, Jacqueline. I was thinking about you this morning. Lewis says, on the 6th was anniversary of my father's death. I told his a few things and been running a fever ever since, which is funny because when he died, I also immediately ran a fever for several days. Probably an anniversary memory. Phoenix says, selenite is very efficient indeed, so much so I hardly cleanse it, never need it. You don't need to clean selenite. Selenite is self-cleansing. So it never needs to be cleaned, and you can clean all of your other stones on it. It'll clean other stones and charge them up too, which is kind of nice. You don't have to worry about whether the moon is out or whether the sun is out. Just get a nice big piece of selenite and throw your rocks on top of it, and they'll just go wah, and they all get happy and they get all kinds of fun. So yeah. So Kenny says, how can I connect with even more on a personal level? Crystals, more tarot, lucid dreaming, I'm not sure. The angel numbers and the guardians. It's going to be up to you. I mean, all those things could work. Or, meditation is another good way of doing that. Learning how to be still so you can hear the inspiration when the inner voice comes through and tells you things. I've in this thing that happened in our household, I kept seeing images constantly, but I kept rejecting them, thinking, no, this is like a projection of mine. This isn't, or this is for some other reason. Turns out they were all correct. So even when you're experienced, your emotions and feelings about people and stuff like that can get in the way of accepting reality or knowing what's really going on. So it's not like a straight line. So Verenia says, how can I let she know I'm interested in connecting with them? Well, you can leave offerings to the fae in your garden. You can make a little fairy garden, put plants that they like. They like a lot of herbs and flowers like lavender and lemon balm and roses and, rosemary. They're very fond of a lot of the witchy herbs and flowers and things like that we like to grow. You can put out little statues to them. You can go out and talk out loud in the little place that you create and let them know that, you're open to communication, and then they'll decide if they're interested or not. And in the meantime, you work on yourself to try and become a better person. So that's always the important thing. I'm not sure exactly what criteria they use to determine, but they've been a bit shy for a while because people have not been nice to them. So it's a level of trust that needs to be developed. So yeah. Jacqueline says, hope things are getting better for you. Been holding space for you. Thank you very much. Things are in the right path at this point. They're going in the right direction. And hopefully this will turn out to be a success, and things will shift the way they're supposed to. But we're doing our best with that, and it's definitely been interesting, to say the least. So, yeah. We're still on, marching on, doing our thing. I've been very busy. I decided to make a second poppet, so when I do the video on the poppets, I have two of them for two family members, healing poppets. And it's been interesting. I talk about them here and there online, and people are like, what's a poppet? I'm like, okay. And then have to go through the negative press of voodoo dolls and explain to people that those original pins weren't actually meant to harm people, but to release blockages and let things out and let illnesses leave the body. But, Hollywood's had a fun time with those. Phoenix says, Siofra, using selenite, how much time it takes to cleanse, charge other stones? Minutes, hours? Well, I just leave them overnight on my stones. I don't know if it takes that long or not. I just have them all together all the time anyway, so they all hang out in the same spot. But, yeah, I don't think it takes very long, actually, to cleanse the stone and charge it up. The thing to know about selenite is it will increase whatever charge is on the stone. So if you have charged the stone up for a specific purpose, it will increase that charge. If you haven't charged the stone up at all, it'll increase the natural charge of the stone, the natural properties of that particular crystal. And that's one of the things that's so nice about it. We have it hanging in our temple. We use it a lot. It's sort of the light color that we use for when we're bringing in the light energy from the universe for the sacred tree meditation. And that's kind of the color of white light that we're looking at and looking for, with little golden sparkles in it. I like the little golden sparkles.
Well, me
Like,
too, and that's a symbol of divinity. So the gold in particular, gold and white is a great symbol for that.
well, that energy is just throughout the universe. It's everywhere. But, we have to pay attention to it. So that's a good thing. Done with my lozenge. Berenia says, how different is fairy and angel energy? They are actually quite different. Angelic energy is sort of farther away from us in some way. The fairy energy is closer to us. It's hard, sometimes words are really difficult to figure out. But the fairy energy is very much into like the plants, the flowers, the trees, the rocks. And angelic energy is kind of like out there more in a different realm kind of thing. And the ones that I've met when I've done healings and stuff like that, angels are not like actively interacting with people as much as far as interfering with what they're doing and so forth. When I've asked an angel for advice when I'm doing a healing, they're always telling me it's up to people. So, our free will apparently is quite important to them. But sometimes they can intervene on rare occasions. But with the Fae, they have their specific jobs and so forth, so they're sort of focused on what they're doing and what, the plants they're taking care of or the animals they're taking care of. And so they're like that way. They're more visceral in that sense. It's the only thing I can think of to try and explain that. Balloonhead says, sometimes I feel like selenite gets tired if it's been cleansing other stones for too long. Nah. It's got an ultimate source of light energy. It just keeps on drawing on. I don't think it gets tired, but not in my experience anyway.
But it doesn't hurt to, if you want to cleanse it out, cleanse it out.
Yeah, just don't use it in water for too long. Unless you want to make it smooth and use some sandpaper on it to take out the ridges.
Yeah, I use plastic polish.
Plastic polish.
Makes it nice and transparent and you see through.
Yeah. Lulu says, can one tell guest person's aura remotely? I'm sure some people can, but that's not something that I tend to do.
Barton could. Not something I can do.
Not something I can do.
Yeah.
Kenny says, I have a selenite crystal ball I bought on Etsy. It's huge and beautiful, I bet. I'm sure the light is wonderful. Laud says, is it true that a branch that is felled naturally in a storm is especially powerful when used as a staff? If it's hit by lightning, maybe.
It runs along with Native American lines. I used to have a staff that was hit by lightning, and I actually, a medicine man actually took hold of it one time, which I didn't appreciate as much as I should have at the time. But there's a legend that it will make your hands crack open.
The one hit by lightning?
Yeah, and
because it dries you out.
Well, I don't know, but the legend is there, and it did.
Oh yeah, and you did have cracks in your hands.
Cracks in my hands. So
that's true. When we first met.
Yeah, so I don't know,
And when it comes to staves and symbolism and stuff like that, the most important symbolism is the one that fits you, the one that feels natural for you. And if you think of it as more powerful or naturally powerful, then it will be. Because it represents you and your power, so. Phoenix says, I have a piece of selenite which is mostly raw form and also tiny crystal clusters on it. Awesome, Kenny. Yeah. Balloonhead says, cool. Phoenix Claw says, remote? I can. Varenya says, are angels really connected to Christianity and Christian God and work under him, or have they always existed even before Christ's era? Yes to the second part. I think Christianity absorbed them, absconded with them, decided to define them. But there's angels in almost every mythology that's out there, descriptions of the same kinds of beings. I don't think that they belong to any religion. They exist. They're just there. And then people have said, okay, this is now ours, and that's us. We determine a lot of these things. And
Yeah.
that's part of the problem. Instead of taking something at face value without trying to define it already, we lose the opportunity to experiencing it as a real thing from its own perspective. Uh, so, that's one of the things I committed to, the idea of facing reality on its own terms without human definition. And I continue to try to do that. And when we're doing these talks, of course, human definition is one of the things that happens a lot because we're trying to figure out language and so forth. But when you're really out there in reality, letting go of those perceptions of things can really open up the possibilities of having so much more happen than what you can even imagine it could be.
Yeah, and I might add that I don't like Christianity as a thing, but I have no problem with working with the angels, archangels, and that. If I want to work with Michael and Gabriel and do a banishing ritual of the pentagram using their names, I have no problem with that.
So Balloonhead says, wow. Phoenix says, besides selenite, I do not know other stones that can do cleansing charging without a need of a cleanse itself like the selenite does. Yeah, I don't either, really. Perhaps snowflake obsidian, not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, possibly snowflake, the little particles that are white, are they selenite? I mean, do they have
I don't
selenite
know
in
what they
them?
are in obsidian, but I know the obsidian is very earthy and grounded by nature.
Right, it's usually for getting rid of negative energy or for grounding a person. Lewell says, Phoenix Claw, can you tell me mine? I'm curious about how accurate was the aura color was determined by machine. Oh, you had your picture taken by one of those picture taking machines. Aura cameras. The other thing too about auras is they change depending on what's going on with you. They're not static. There's really nothing static about an aura. Your main color might be always there, kind of thing, but the rest of the stuff that's around is going to depend on the mood you're in, what's happening in your life, what you're doing, how you're feeling, whether you're sick or well. It's sort of like an instant map, if you know how to read it, of where a person is at. So Danny Leo says, doesn't citrine work that way? Well, it's hard to find real citrine because most citrine is just amethyst that's been heated. So maybe natural citrine would, but I don't know. I just picked some up the other day. Violet says, since you are familiar with the Fae, is there a yin and yang, Seelie, unseelie court? There's always going to be different types of energies and different things that are being done. I imagine that the Fae that take care of corpses that are in the woods and, get the vultures to come and eat them are going to be very different looking than the ones that make a tree bloom and put in the colors for fall. I mean, but I don't think it's that black and white, negative, positive kind of thing that people have a tendency to get into. Verena says, sorry if this sounds childish, but when you saw angels, did they have wings? Also, do biblically accurate angels exist? Like the one with multiple big eyes. Yes, they had wings. I saw them in churches. I saw them outside in the woods. So I saw them in multiple locations. And I don't know, I don't remember them having big eyes or multiple eyes. I've seen that on other beings, but not on angels specifically. Have you? No.
No, no, I haven't actually have seen an angel so much as I worked with him for like the banishing rituals. So work with Michael, Gabriel, Uriel.
And when I've seen them, like once I saw one that was hiding in a corner when I went to do a remote cleansing of this woman who thought she was being attacked by a psychic vampire, and it turns out she was correct. And that was sort of like a message to me that there was danger in the room and I needed to take extra precautions, and because I've never seen an angel do that before. Um, but they just look, like beings made out of light, and most of them have light around their shoulders that look
Yeah,
like
some
wings.
of them have certain colors associated with them in general.
Was it I saw a green angel for the first time? Mostly they're white, sort of a blue-white kind of color, but I saw one that was green a couple weeks ago. I forgot about
Well,
when
it's
I was
like
doing
Michael
something.
is supposed to have a lot of red garments and that type of thing. at least for the purposes of imagining them as a form for them to appear in.
Well, that's the other thing to remember is that they're spirit. They don't have a physical body, so they're not they're not required to look the same every time they come. They can change their shape and their color depending upon you.
Yeah. But if you're pulling them in, you can use the same form, and it usually has all the qualities of that being, whether it's fiery or watery or whatever. The colors will be appropriate. I believe the Golden Dawn used the majority green, the majority red for Michael, and then like some green accents or something when they pictured it. And that's your form, energy form you've created for the being to manifest down in the pentagram ritual. They stand outside your circle and guard you.
So Phoenix Claus says, funny, I just detected yellow and green very bright. That information went right into my brain super fast. Lulu says, thank you, picture was indigo for me and bright yellow for my child. Phoenix says, I worked with Faye, and they worked mostly only with very, very honest people with good spiritual purposes. Well, I can believe that, because I'm one of those extremely honest people. And yeah. That would probably be the best way to be attractive to them. Because they can see right through us. Even more so than most other beings, I think. It's like they know what's in our hearts. Lod says, I think the white gray flakes in the snowflake obsidian are volcanic ash, but I'll have to Google it. So will I. Jonathan says the greater key of Solomon is mostly working with angels.
I get them always mixed up between the greater and the lesser key.
Candy says, I believe our imagination has altered to thinking that they look like babies. No, I think you're thinking of Cupid and the baby Cupid, which, of course, the Greek Cupid was a full-grown guy and definitely not a baby, so who knows. There may be an attempt to depower them by giving them a silly external aspect.
So it is the greater key that is dealing with the angels and the lesser key that deals with the demons. Jonathan is correct on that.
Berenia says, are all angels really absolutely about love and light as traditionally projected, or can some of them be evil as well?
It's a matter of definition.
Evil is really not a thing when it comes to angels, or most beings, really, when it comes down to it, because evil is something that is done on purpose to harm something else. And it's not like a natural process. If it's a natural process,
it's a human judgment.
It is a human judgment. A natural process is not something that can be judged as good or evil. It can be good for you, bad for someone else, good for someone else, bad for you. So it can be subjective, a matter of your particular place in whatever it is that's happening. Like if there's a flood and you manage to escape the flood, but your house is gone, good that you escaped the flood, bad that your house is gone, you know. So it's not, we need to really watch that tendency to try and judge everything by these black and white things, because the universe isn't like that. We have black holes running through in the middle of our galaxy, and every galaxy out there has one. But without that black hole, the galaxy wouldn't be holding itself together. So black hole is bad if you're a star nearby and you get sucked into it. Black hole is good if you're any other star in the entire galaxy, because you get to hang out with it, you know. So it's all about your position and your perspective.
Well, exactly. You know, you can walk out your front door and break a leg, and that's bad if you didn't want to break your leg, but it's good if you would have got killed somehow instead, right, and it kept you from getting killed, then it's a good thing. So it's a matter of our own internal perspective for sure.
Yeah, and what information we might get later. At the time, it'd be a horrible thing, but then if later there was this big, huge explosion down the block that we missed because we broke our leg, then it was like, yay, I'm so happy I broke my leg. I mean, yeah, we need to expand the way we experience the universe, because it's our own limitations that are like trying to narrow things down to the point where we're not really getting as much as we could out of it, I think. Phoenix Claus says, well, in the Bible, some angels were not very positive, some were violent. Well, yeah, some of them were deaf and came to tell someone about it. But, again, that's a mythology that's written by people. And I don't feel comfortable judging the angels based upon any human mythology, because I know that people have written things that were completely incorrect about the Fae from personal experience.
Yes, and for one example, Barton's beings, the 72 angels of Mercury, are the angel names of the Shemhamfarash, which was Jewish mysticism, and they were also worshipped as angels, but they're basically the spirits of Mercury.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole issue, right? We are depending upon other people in the past, people we know, people that we think know something, wrote something down, it got spoken or rewritten, it got passed around, it got put in our brains, it was put in our heads, we've decided it must be true, and then we're defining the universe based on that. And like I said not that long ago, I tried to make a commitment to not judging the universe based on human perception, because we are a very small part of the universe. We don't know very much about what's really going on. And to think that our perception is the correct and accurate one is a mistake, in my opinion. And it limits us and our ability to actually communicate with the universe. If you want to have a real conversation with the universe, you can't define it out of existence.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Good point.
Anyway, Krista says hello. Hi, Krista. Phoenix says hello, Krista. Balloonhead says, I just thought some people associate cherubs with Cupid because of how they looked in pre-Technicolor cartoons. I think that they had that before the cartoons came along.
And you know what? If you want to get down into some of the research that's done, it may be that the cherubs actually had a bowl shape originally in some of the stuff we're trying to. We've done a little bit of research, like on the Ark of the Covenant. I have things like that, and there's some past indications to indicate that the cherubs didn't look human in the least. They were an animal form with wings, but this is many years later, so who knows for sure.
Phoenix says, absolutely, huge difference between myth and reality. Krista says, Michael says, thank you both for your time and wisdom. You're welcome, Michael. Thank you for joining. Berenia says, does angel hierarchy really exist like cherub, seraphim, and how rigid and important that hierarchy is for them? Probably not. I mean, they have different jobs to do. Like the angel that might be in charge of hurricanes is not going to go mess up the angel that's in charge of, something else. But I don't know. I think, again, hierarchy, this is our structure. The power over, power under structure. And we imprint it upon everything that we deal with. There always has to be someone above telling you what to do, someone below to do what they're told, whether they want to or not.
Yeah, we found that out from experience when we had a business, that some people do not like equal power. They can't handle it. It has to be above or below.
If we want to, as Jonathan say, get shifted out of this particular reality, is we need to have a new model of power, and the power with model is the only one that works, and it's the only really sustainable one. But people are really not willing to do it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, we had an employee and it drove him absolutely nuts.
Krista says, yes, I was going to say you for all the new things I've learned from her and him. You're welcome. Balloonhead says, I meant more than the imagery of a baby-looking cherub having heart-shaped bow and arrow and all that.
Sorry.
Berenia says, do every person have a guardian angel, or it's a myth? It's a myth. Not everyone has a guardian angel. Some people have them, and some people have guardian spirits from their family. And so they have ancestors that serve that same purpose. But everyone has something that's there to try and help.
Yeah, Barton says there basically is a guardian, but the guardian angel, again, is a matter of interpretation, like we were talking about. He's of the opinion everybody has one.
Yeah, but they're not all
At least
angels.
one. Well, yeah.
They're guardians.
Yeah, spirit being. He says a lot of times it can be a spirit of the zone girdling the earth, or in a lot of cases, relatives.
Which would be the ancestor.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, I've met people who've had a guardian angel. I've only met a few that have had more than one. And, you know, it's, who knows how these things get decided. I'm not privy to all the decisions that are being made about that, that's for sure.
I would think probably everybody has at least one, you know.
You know, one kind of a guardian.
Yeah, something.
So, Varenya says, what is your opinion on Lemuria? Well, I remember it. So I guess my opinion is I was there, but it wasn't physical the same way as we are, maybe. Who knows? There could have been 10 or more previous civilizations that got completely covered up and stuck under the ocean. I mean, the way things have moved around on our planet, I don't know. But my main focus is what's here and now and what we're going to do with the thing that we find ourselves in at the moment. I mean, the past is interesting and all that other stuff, but whether it was real or not real is of little consequence when it comes to why we're sitting right here, right now.
Working with reality now, yeah.
Right.
That's true.
Being in the moment, because this moment is the only one we can really experience. And the more we're in it, the more we're going to get out of it. Venus Claus says, I know some stones, though, that transmute big time, like zoisite and indigo grabro, merlinite. I witnessed it, but hard to master sometimes. Well, I like the zoisite. I've got a lot of that. And I put that on my Mars wand. I have not heard about the indigo grabro or the merlinite. You never know. I mean, everyone's going to have a different relationship with everything that's out there. And some things work well with people, like, you know, some people are allergic to strawberries and other people think they're the best thing that's ever been created. So I'm sure that's the same with stones. I read a story about a woman that was allergic to rubies.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was interesting because she was in India and they were on some journey or whatever, and she was given this ruby ring and she immediately got sick. She got a really high fever, and it took them a while to figure out what the problem was, and when they took the ring away from her, she got better. So I was like, okay, that can happen. I'm going to be open to the possibility. But yeah. What else do we want to talk about?
Good question.
Krista says, that was very profound. I like Fae and angels. Need to spend time with them more to learn firsthand. I agree. Yeah.
Recommended method, yep.
Definitely recommended method.
Learn it, and there are always individual things, individual to you, that you wouldn't learn any other way.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've gotten from the Fae is one of the reasons why they're so incredibly shy in this period for the last few hundred years actually is because of all of the stories that Christianity spread about them. And it's not like they judge themselves or whatever, but they certainly see our attitudes, and like someone was saying, us being authentic and open and genuine and honest is one of the things that attracts them, because they've listened and heard all the judgments and so forth about who they are and what they're doing.
Speaking of which, on that general subject though, I don't know how many people know this, but the square dance was invented as competition to the round dance that the pagans were doing when Christianity was getting started. So they decided they needed a square dance because everybody was going to the pagan dances.
That's right. That was pretty funny. The round dance was way too popular.
Yep, so they decided to make a square dance.
So Phoenix says, was allergic to the frequency of ruby. So many tests to do, so little time or occasions to do it. Sarah Herr says, I had a dream. And then lost the thread. Michael says, are there any warnings that you two could give to us? I mean, have you both run into any spirits that you saw in the physical realm that are actually dangerous? There are definitely some spirit beings that are powerful enough that they're overwhelming to the person.
Yeah.
And so, like, as the same kind of caution when it comes to spirits as I would give to someone deciding to go into the woods. They're wild, they're not tame, there are individuals, they have individual personalities. Always treat everything you meet with respect, be willing to retreat if it seems that you're bothering them, and leave them alone if they don't want to be talked to.
And back to Barden, when you're doing evocations, he mentions one that's the spirit of death for the Earth zone, and says that basically if you evoke it and you're not really ready, you evoke it without being properly prepared, you'd likely die. So there are some that are just dangerous because of their energy.
Right, and again, like we were talking about allergies, if you
Yes.
aren't prepared, if your energy is not the right frame for what you encounter, there's nothing wrong with putting that on the back burner and leaving it alone. I mean, I was lucky when I ran into the giant two-headed dragon spirit that has been around for millions of years before people came along, that I had a story in my head of how to act and what to do under the circumstances, and I pulled it off. I've had other people that have encountered them and gone crazy. So, yeah. If you're walking through the woods and you encounter a bear, you're gonna know you're gonna have to be careful around the bear.
Basically, don't feed the bears. Don't play with the bears and take them seriously, and then you can usually stay out of trouble. I haven't ran across any that are actually inimical to people who want to harm them myself. Just in general. Everything's been thought forms that somebody else sent or something like that.
Yeah, in this being that I met, it wasn't like wanting to harm anybody. It was just what it was. And see, that's the thing. It's like there's intent, but most of these beings don't have that kind of an intent if you run across them. Land guardians are easily friended by just acknowledging them and acknowledging the land that they're taking care of and being respectful of the space that they're there to guard. And they can make a lot of people feel very uncomfortable. I've gone to a number of paranormal investigations where one of the things that was happening was that there was a land guardian nearby, and the people were freaking out because they could feel this thing but they didn't know what it was, and it it sort of put them off and made them anxious. So it's not that things aren't potentially dangerous, but they're not evil. So I guess that's it. Jonathan says, Barton talks as if everyone has a guardian. The Abramelin ritual is all about meeting your guardian. I actually found someone on YouTube who attempted the Abramelin and met his guardian angel. There's different kinds of guardians, though.
Yeah. There's a book, too, about someone who attempted the Abramelin working and failed. I think it's called The Sacred Magician or something like that. I don't know where it's at, so I can't give you any more details, but there was a book written about it, somebody who undertook it seriously.
Okay, so Lod says, wasn't quite right about snowflake obsidian containing volcanic ash. It's formed from volcanic glass, though. I love that stone. It's wonderful stuff. Sarah says, so the end of her sentence is, I had a dream that I could see fairies as dragonflies. That sounds awesome. Terrific. And I often associate like butterflies and dragonflies with fairies. In fact, some of the ones that I saw physically, wide awake with my eyes open, not in a vision, their wings, the smaller ones had dragonfly wings, and the bigger one had a butterfly-shaped wing, although the colors weren't anything like any butterfly I've ever seen.
Seems like that fire sprite I saw had wings too.
Yeah.
But it was there for such a short time, it just went zip.
Yep. It flew off.
That's what they do.
Michael says, I'm trying to find out what actual entities that we may run into that are physically dangerous. I'm telling you that there are some, and you just have to be aware and be alert. I found another pre-human spirit in a house one day that had teeth and claws and growled. And I know that it could have been physically dangerous to me, and certainly could have been physically dangerous to the house. But I treated it as any animal that I would suddenly come upon who felt cornered, and backed off and talked quietly and showed it the light that I carried and let it, I let it out of the house so that it didn't feel trapped anymore. So yeah, there are things that can do that, and I don't know all of them. You just have to stay alert. So Moonfire says, are Barden's books still in print? Yes. I am currently reading The True Kabbalah. I started Magical Evocation, but it sounds like I need his first book to use the second. Probably a good idea.
Yeah, unless you already have those abilities that he talks about that he develops in the first book.
Yeah, we used the second one when we did the Mercury Evocation that we did recently. I love that book because it's just such a wonderful wealth of information, spirit seals, names, job descriptions, what they do, if they're willing to do it for free, you know, if they're like,
it's just all the information.
They
right
won't
there.
do it if it's bad for you. This is always a good thing because sometimes you don't always know what might be bad for you. Yeah. Balloonhead says, I like how petty that is. Is that why there are so many squares?
The square dance thing. Take us from round dance,
Right, sorry. I don't know. Phoenix says, question, Siofra, are you an empath? I had to ask. Yes, absolutely, I'm an empath. And that's one of the things that really tripped me up when this whole situation that we are not talking about specifically happened Monday at a barbecue. And someone that doesn't know me came up and started to blast all sorts of stuff at me that I suspected but didn't know was true yet. And I wasn't wearing my usual protections, and I felt like she meant well, and I appreciated her intent, but I felt like someone had stabbed me with 1,000 needles, and I needed to take a bath and scrub my skin off when I was done, because it was like, whoa. I haven't had that happen in a long time. Usually I'm better prepared, and I can like shield myself so I don't have to get all the stuff somebody is sending. But that woman is very intense.
Hey, did you answer the what is your question on opinion on Lemuria?
Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did.
It must have been when I was looking for my book or something. All right.
All right. Michael says, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Understood. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Moonfire Dawn says, well, I just learned why I always felt strangely anti-square dance. Well, it's just so artificial. I mean, dancing in a circle is so much easier to do. And, you don't have to learn as many steps. And then you get dizzy really fast and fall down and just have fun. So, that's what happens to me anyway.
Spiral dances.
Spiral dances, yep. Krista says, that's what I have, yes. The guardians that are relatives, yes. Phoenix Claw says, I have 4 dragon guides, one very tall and red, one very small and green, and 2 other the size of a mountain. So color and size is impressive at times. Yes. Jessica says, hi Siofra, it's been so long since I've made it to Alive. Well, hello Jessica, thank you for being here. We always appreciate people. Phoenix says, hi back Jessica. Krista says, Lemuria is the same as Lemurian quartz. Well, Lemuria is the name of the continent, or Mu, and Lemurian quartz is supposedly a quartz that has messages or memories of Lemuria in it, as far as I can tell.
Oh, okay.
Like a memory crystal.
I see.
Lulu says, never tried on purpose to connect with my angel, but he has contacted me on and off throughout my life when I needed him. Drowning, car accident, meeting my husband. Got a confirmation that he is my husband. Good.
Cool.
I mean, yeah. Often that's the case. If you don't need them all the time.
Well, that's what I've been getting is I find my guardian, I can't really get him to answer any questions or anything. It's like it helps just kind of when he wants to, or whatever that source is.
Whatever he can.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's my angel, but I don't know what else it would be otherwise.
Violet says, you really are so funny, both of you. Chuckle. And I can listen and absorb so much invaluable information, just saying. I love that you love Barden. I just got all 3. They just made 2 in paperback. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, paperbacks are cheaper. Even at that,
They're
Barton's
still
books
expensive.
are expensive, yeah.
So Phoenix says Atlanteans or Lemuria, like as is Two Light Mountains, clear quartz, maybe relation and all this. Well, the Atlanteans were in a different time zone. Lemuria was supposedly first, and then Atlantis came later. So, and Lemuria is in the Pacific, and Atlantis is in the Atlantic. So, I don't know. So Violet says, like learning that the 72 Shem angels are really part of Mercury, priceless. Krista says, yes, nice story. You're welcome. Whatever it was I said, now that I can't remember. That's one of the things, though, that's interesting about the live show. The time delay adds some interest to it. It's just makes it very unique.
Just confuses me if I watch it, since I'm watching you.
But hey, we're communicating. That's a good thing, right?
Yep.
I like that.
I don't know, maybe got about 15 minutes left.
Yep.
Somebody come up with some
More questions.
couple more subjects for us.
We love subjects.
Yep.
All you got to do is go bing, stick one in us, and then poof, all this stuff comes out.
Well, depending, unless we know nothing about it.
Well,
which
and then that
happens
comes out, and then we
occasionally,
move on, right? That's the thing. Is like we're okay with not knowing everything. Seems kind of refreshing considering some of the people out there. Venus says, "What is the stone on your neck now?" This is my tiger eye. It's a green tiger eye, and I wear it almost all the time. This is the main one I use for helping my empath abilities stay in control. But when I'm around a lot of people, I should have worn my bracelets, and I didn't wear them to the barbecue. That was my bad. And when I wear my bracelets, I use black tourmaline, obsidian, sometimes the zoisite, the ruby matrix stuff, chalcedony or chalcedony, however you say that. Sometimes the kyanite bracelet. I have a green kyanite bracelet. I have a black spinel bracelet I have to fix, and it has some black tourmaline in it as well. But those stones I charge up, and I also have an amethyst bracelet that I sometimes wear. It depends on the mood I'm in. And so I put the stuff to block negative energy on my left and to absorb positive energy and keep my energy field, like energized in a good direction on the right, so that it works that way. But I often sleep with this. It's comfortable enough, and I've had it for a while. Let me go up a little bit here, make sure I don't miss anything. Yeah. So Hannah, hi Hannah. Any opinions on pets in past lives? I had a dream that my current dog, the first that is mine, not a family pet, was my dog in a previous life. There's been an odd fate-like things too with his adoption. I think that is definitely a possibility. Animals can get attached to people and want to come back and be with them. So I don't know if it's definitely what happened, but it's certainly a possibility. I've talked to other people who swear that their previous pet had returned in another animal's body, personality and everything. So Krista says listening. Claude says, what advice do you have for discovering and connecting to your spirit animal? I'm drawn to so many. Well, good question. You can adopt an animal, and it can become your spirit animal. You can suddenly discover that you have a specific personality, like when Ian discovered that coyote was his totem animal. It came out of the blue.
And he came right up and told me, though.
It came up and touched him on the nose and says, I'm your totem. Coyote is me, So it's going to depend. I mean, I'm attracted to a lot of different animals. I connect with a lot of animals. And sometimes an animal you just like and interact with can become a spirit animal, like the crows that I feed in my yard and that kind of thing. Other times it's just like you'll notice something out in the world that will suddenly be like different, about how the animal interacts, like the bat that flew around Ian's head in broad daylight, or suddenly encountering a lot of an animal. Hummingbird seems to be one that comes around me from time to time. And you'll see, like, someone will give you a piece of jewelry that is in the shape of an animal all of a sudden, or you'll start seeing it everywhere and
A
connect
lot of
with
times
it.
it's something you've had some connection with in your past. Like I've always had a certain connection to bats. They were around me a lot as a child. And then the same thing with coyotes. I've always felt a connection to them, and I've seen more than my fair share of just wild coyotes.
Yeah, so a lot of times the information is already there in your experience, but you just haven't noticed it together
Yeah,
until
you make
all of a
that
sudden it just
connection.
goes like bing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jacqueline says, doing a wand making workshop in 2 weeks. What's the best advice I can give my students? Make it personal. Make it feel right. Whatever feels right. There's no wrong way to make a wand, and wands are like a very intuitive tool. If someone is making a wand and they're trying to follow a certain set of rules or instructions, like this is how you make a wand, it has to be this long, has to be made out of this, you have to use these items to make it. It can teach them how to make a wand, but it might not teach them how to make their wand. So that would be, the fact that wands can be so many different kinds of things. And yeah, I guess that would be the best advice I could think of off the top of my head to tell you about that, because that's how they're going to tune into their brand of magic. Making a wand is one of the few things that everybody can actually do. So one of the reasons why I like them so much. And
Yeah.
then the ones that I've bought in general, well, I bought the wrong ones. They
Well,
were
one
like
of the, one of
tubes
the
or something,
things
but
that's going to be important is the feeling you have towards the wands. So
yeah,
if people can personalize them a little bit, make them individual.
absolutely. So Violet says, I just bought 2 crow's feet from a taxidermy guy on Etsy. I'm painting them black gloss with some glitter and stars. Any thoughts I should or should not know on this topic? Is it icky to you? Well, animal parts are part of nature, so I don't find it icky. I wouldn't want to kill the crow or the raven in order to get the feet, but if it was already dead, then I would see no reason not to
Yeah.
use the feet. So,
I have
or the wings, or
yeah, I have a coyote face and a coyote tail.
yeah, and so yeah, I have nothing negative to say to that. Charity says, I am currently banishing a negative spirit out of my life, hopefully believing it will work. Well, don't hope that it will work, know that it will work. Because it's your space and you're in charge of your space. So nothing can be in your space if you don't want it there. You got to know that. And then it will work. Okay? Whether it's a person or a spirit being. Phoenix says, me too, Charity, yet unsure if it is there. Violet says, if I want to make a key with a formula added to it for a planet or zodiac, like sulfur, salt, and mercury being alchemy, and any thoughts on this?
I'm not entirely clear on the question, honestly. A key with a formula added to it, planet or zodiac. Any, yeah, sorry. Nothing's coming to mind. You may have to rephrase the question.
Charity says, pure protection, intentionally protecting myself and family. A good start. Violet says, any. Balloon Head says, y'all got me remembering that I sometimes have a hard time getting a sudden intuitive messages. It's like I'm responding to a question I don't remember hearing. And do you all have racy minds? Some days. I've discovered that sometimes spirit seems to be talking to me, or my subconscious, one of the two, in songs. I'll not be, I'm not listening to music in particular, and then all of a sudden I'll notice that there is a song in my head and it's going on, and then I'll start paying attention to the lyrics of the song, and usually there's a message in the lyrics. That's something I needed to hear. So I find that interesting. That's just sort of new, or at least new that I've noticed, I guess. Krista says, so overwhelming feelings are a sign of a bad entity. Retreat. Yes. Kay. Yes. Overwhelming feelings can definitely be the sign of a bad entity, or at least one that you're not compatible with currently meeting.
You can also have a certain amount of shock, what I'm going to call shock of contact, with something that is truly foreign and yet a life form. It can be kind of shocking to you, at least it is to me, even though I know that such things exist. When I've made solid contact like that, it's given me an odd feeling, like even with our kitty cat. I worked for a while on trying to contact her consciousness just to see what that was like, and it really freaked me out when I did.
Yes, it was like, oh,
Well, it wasn't at all
eating machine.
Well, it wasn't at all human. That was the thing. It's that
Yeah.
shock of contact with something that's just not human.
Really not human.
Yeah, it's an interesting sensation.
Ironically, I answered Balloon Head's question already when I answered the first one. Lulu says, or a wild animal that you aren't afraid of, like the bear I met. Phoenix says, bats. Yes, a connection. Dogs, flies, spiders. Jacqueline says, that's great. Thanks so much. You're welcome. Michael says, any advice on finding a teacher? No. I mean, really, you need to, looking for a teacher is a crapshoot, it seems. And certainly I kept wanting to have a teacher when I was younger. And I kept saying, where am my teacher? You know, they say when you're ready, your teacher will come. Where's my teacher? And I kept getting an image of my two children. And I'm like, no, no, I don't want them to be my teachers. So I think that a lot of times we're getting taught lessons that we're not wanting to have, and our teacher is coming in a different shape. But when it comes to like finding out information about this, look for somebody who's authentic, somebody who isn't a braggart, somebody who is not certain of everything that they know, someone who's willing to answer a question or, you know, listen to an idea, someone who's not super flashy. Really, when it comes down to it, if you want to learn authentic information, you have to find someone who's authentic. And I actually did a video on being authentic, so you can see what I think that means. And I think that the magical community is really missing good teachers when it comes to it, because there's that whole flash in the pan. I've been doing this for 3 years, and now I know everything I need to know. I'm going to teach everybody I know what I know. That's not what I would consider a good teacher. You certainly can learn something from it. So you can learn from anyone, but depending on what you're trying to learn, you need to find specific types of people. I'm encouraging one of the other elders in our state to maybe start putting videos out herself, because I think it would be good to have more experienced people out there. So the things I tell you are things that happened to me. I don't make stuff up. I don't need to, because I've had such a strange and eventful life. But then I don't tell you what to do with the information or how to use it, because it's your path. And that's the other thing. If you want a teacher, you want someone who's going to help you learn your way, not just learn their way. So that would be what I have to say on this subject, I guess. So Krista says, two-headed dragon. Wow, right. Yeah, I actually did a whole video about that guy. I think I called it Dragons and Spirits, because it kind of fit. Sarah says, same with me in songs. Violet says, on the key thing in the Solomon books, there's a picture of a magical key with a triangle and a square on it in the top part, then a 3x4 square that has all letters. I wasn't clear, sorry.
Okay, so I think I get an idea what you're getting at. That might be the lunar one. I don't have that book right handy with me right now, but you can use magical squares of the planets for a similar purpose, and then make them specifically to your to your thing. Those ones in the greater key of Solomon are planetary related. So you could take, well, I just did the thing in the Tree of Life. So as an example, how I would do that as a Western magician, I would take and I would look at the Tree of Life and decide what sphere what you want to do appertains to. Look at the properties of the Siofra, decide what they are, pick that planet. The number of the Siofra will indicate the number of the sides for a seal, and then you make a planetary seal with that many sides, put the planetary square on one side, and then on the other side look up the information on the spirit beings. There's typical lists of them for Western magicians and making spirit seals that way. Typical spirit of the planet, like Hismael or Hagiel for Venus, for example. And so you put their seal and stuff on there, and then charge that up with what you charge that up with the planetary energy. But you have to make sure, on top of all that you both get the planetary energy in it, and then you get your intention very clearly on it, and making a picture on it that somewhat represents your intention is not a bad idea. In the seals, a lot of times they do it with a versicle around the outside that's in Latin or something, which it doesn't need to be, but that type of thing. So form it to your intention from, figure out what if I'm not way off base about what you're asking.
Well, that's a good start anyway. You might have to do an entire video on that. Luo says, "You are my teacher." Thank you. Lava Moonchild says, "I was in contact with a medium and spirit kept telling her parallel universe and twins. I recalled a memory I had a month ago about splitting in two that felt incredibly nostalgic, but in a new way." Interesting. Violet says, "Authentic like you guys." Roxanne said, "I feel drawn to be a witch. What do I do next?" I have a video that says, "I think I'm a witch. What do I do next?" And witchcraft, where do I start, or something like that. And we have lists, we have playlists, and I have a whole series of videos on basics and how to do ritual and so forth, and the different tools that are in the craft, and videos on the gods and the goddesses. So explore our channel and you'll find a lot of information about it. So Phoenix says, "Well, the old legend I have read somewhere about a 7-headed dragon that created the universe." And we're going to have to wrap up now, guys. So Lod, you're a natural teacher, Siofra. Thank you. You're welcome.
Glad I helped answer your question.
Okay.
Violet Star.
All right. Phoenix says, "Me too, Roxanne. Will be attentive and go with the flow you feel drawn to." All right, let's see. Yeah, I'm sorry, Angela. You are very late and we're on our way out the door. We can't keep on too long, although I'd love it. But join us next week so we can talk more. I know you are, so let's see. All right. So, guys, we have to go now. It's been lovely talking to everybody.
Blessed be.
And thank you all for sharing your time with us. Oh, thank you, Jacqueline. And just, have yourselves a great week. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye, all.